Let me say this plainly. Because someone needs to. The deepest wounds don't come from strangers. They come from the people who knew your heart and still chose to hurt it. If you're listening to this and your chest feels tight, it's not because you're weak. It's because you trusted. And when family betrays you, it doesn't just break your heart, it shatters your sense of reality. You start questioning everything, your memories, your instincts, your worth. I want you to hear me right now. Betrayal by family is not a small pain. It's grief layered with confusion, loyalty tangled with loss, love poisoned by disappointment. And the worst part, you're often told to move on, forgive, or be the bigger person as if your pain is an inconvenience. But healing does not begin with silence. Healing begins when you tell the truth to yourself first. The truth is, you can love people deeply and still acknowledge that they are not safe for you. You can honor the bond you wished you had without staying trapped in the bond that hurts you. And you are allowed to feel anger, sadness, and longing all at the same time. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop bleeding for people who won't stop cutting you. This moment, right here, is not about blame. It's about clarity. Because you cannot heal what you keep denying. And you cannot become whole while carrying the weight of betrayal that was never yours to carry. This is where healing begins, not with fixing them, but with choosing you. One of the hardest parts of family betrayal is this quiet, exhausting question you keep asking yourself. Was it really that bad, or am I just too sensitive? And that question alone can keep you stuck for years. Because when the people who were supposed to protect you minimize your pain, you learn to minimize yourself. You learn to doubt your own experience. You start editing your story so others can stay comfortable. Let me be very clear about something. If it hurt you, it matters. If it changed how you trust, how you love, how you show up in the world, it was real. Family betrayal often doesn't look dramatic from the outside. It looks like broken promises. It looks like favoritism that never gets named. It looks like silence when you needed defense. It looks like being told again and again that your feelings are too much. And over time, that kind of betrayal teaches you a dangerous lesson that love requires endurance, not dignity. But love was never meant to cost you your self-respect. Here's the truth we avoid, because it's painful. Sometimes the people who raised us don't have the capacity to love us in the way we needed. Not because you were unlovable, but because they were limited. And acknowledging that doesn't make you ungrateful. It makes you honest. Healing starts when you stop trying to earn the love that should have been freely given. When you stop explaining your wounds to people who benefit from your silence. When you stop shrinking to fit into a family system that only works if you stay small. You are not breaking the family by telling the truth. You are breaking a cycle. And that takes courage most people never find. There is a particular kind of loneliness that comes with family betrayal. It's the loneliness of being surrounded by people and still feeling unseen. It's sitting at the same table, hearing familiar voices, and realizing no one is actually listening to your heart. And that loneliness can be more painful than outright rejection, because betrayal by family doesn't always scream. Often, it whispers. It shows up as emotional absence, as support that disappears when it's inconvenient, as love that feels conditional, given only when you perform, complain, or stay quiet. So you learn to carry your pain alone. You become strong in ways you never asked to be. And on the outside, people call you resilient. But inside, you're tired. Tired of being the one who understands. Tired of being the one who forgives first. Tired of being the one who holds the family together while slowly falling apart. Let me tell you something important. Survival is not the same as healing. Just because you've learned to function doesn't mean the wound isn't there. Unhealed betrayal doesn't disappear. It leaks. It leaks into your relationships, your boundaries, your sense of worth. It teaches you to expect abandonment and to overgive in the hope that this time someone will stay. And the cruel irony, the more you abandon yourself to keep others close, the more invisible you become. Healing begins when you notice this pattern without shame. When you say this coping kept me alive, but it's no longer how I want to live. When you allow yourself to grieve not just what happened, but what never did, because mourning the family you needed and didn't get is not weakness, it's honesty. And honesty is the doorway to freedom. One of the most damaging myths we're taught is that family loyalty should come at any cost. That blood is thicker than boundaries. That enduring harm is somehow proof of love. But hear me clearly, loyalty that requires self-betrayal is not loyalty. It's fear disguised as duty. When you've been betrayed by family, setting boundaries can feel like treason. Your body reacts before your mind does. Your heart races, your stomach knots. Guilt floods in, because somewhere along the way, you learned that protecting yourself means hurting others. But boundaries are not punishments. They are protection. Boundary is simply the line where your responsibility for yourself begins. It says, I can care about you without sacrificing my mental health. It says, I'm allowed to choose peace over chaos. And yes, it says, I will no longer participate in relationships that wound me. Here's the hard truth. People who benefit from your lack of boundaries will call you selfish the moment you create them. They will rewrite the story. They will question your character. They may even accuse you of being the problem. That doesn't mean you're wrong. It means the dynamic is changing. You don't owe anyone access to your life just because you share DNA. Access is earned through consistency, respect, and care. And when you start honoring your boundaries, something powerful happens. You begin to trust yourself again. You stop explaining your pain to people committed to misunderstanding it. You stop negotiating with those who refuse to meet you halfway. This is not about cutting people off in anger. It's about stepping back in wisdom, because healing doesn't require revenge. It requires self-respect. Letting go after family betrayal isn't just about distance. It's about grief, the kind no one prepares you for. Because you're not only grieving what they did, you're grieving what you hope they would become. You're grieving the conversations that never happened, the apologies that never came, the protection you deserved but didn't receive. And that grief is complicated. There's love in it. There's anger in it. There's longing and relief sitting side by side. You may catch yourself missing them and then hating yourself for it. You may feel peaceful one day and shattered the next. And when that happens, you might think you're going backwards. You're not. Grief is not linear, especially when the people you're grieving are still alive. This is called ambiguous loss, losing someone without a funeral, without closure, without permission to fully mourn. And society doesn't make space for this kind of pain. You're expected to stay connected, to keep showing up, to pretend everything is fine because they're family. But pretending comes at a cost. It costs you your truth. It costs you your nervous system. It costs you your ability to feel safe in your own body. Healing begins when you allow yourself to grieve honestly, not quietly, not politely, but truthfully. You are allowed to cry over people who are still breathing. You are allowed to feel heartbreak over relationships you chose to leave. You are allowed to mourn the version of family that never existed. Grief is not a sign you made the wrong decision. It's a sign that you loved deeply. And loving deeply, even when it hurts, is never something to be ashamed of. After family betrayal, there's often a quiet voice inside you that starts asking a dangerous question: what's wrong with me? You replay conversations. You scan your past for mistakes. You wonder if you were too sensitive, too emotional, too much. And without realizing it, you take responsibility for harm that was never yours to carry. Let me stop that story right here. Being hurt by betrayal does not mean you are flawed. It means you are human. It means you were open. It means you expected love where love should have been. Self-blame is a survival strategy. If you can convince yourself it was your fault, you can believe you had control, and control feels safer than accepting that the people you depended on failed you. But healing asks something braver of you. It asks you to release the lie that you were the problem. Rebuilding after betrayal starts with self-compassion. Not the shallow kind that tells you to stay positive, but the deep kind that sits with your pain and says, Of course, this hurts. It looks like learning to listen to your body again, like trusting the discomfort instead of dismissing it, like choosing rest over explanation, like speaking to yourself with the same gentleness you offer everyone else. When you stop turning anger inward, it becomes information instead of shame. It shows you where your boundaries were crossed. It teaches you what you will no longer tolerate. This is how you come home to yourself. Not all at once, but moment by moment. Healing doesn't mean you become harder. It means you become clearer. And clarity is the beginning of peace. When family betrays you, it doesn't just hurt the relationship, it fractures your sense of who you are. Because for so long, your identity may have been shaped around survival, around roles you never chose. The peacemaker, the strong one, the one who doesn't cause trouble. And those roles kept you safe once. But now they may be keeping you stuck. There comes a moment in healing when you realize this truth. You cannot become who you are meant to be while staying loyal to who you had to be. Letting go means loosening your grip on the old story. The story that says your worth comes from sacrifice, that love must be earned through endurance, that speaking up makes you difficult. It means asking yourself brave questions. Who am I when I'm not managing everyone else's emotions? What do I want when I'm not trying to keep the peace? What does safety feel like in my body? This can feel terrifying because when you stop playing your role, the system reacts. People may resist the change. They may miss the version of you that was easier to control. But their discomfort is not your responsibility. You are allowed to evolve beyond the version of yourself that survived betrayal. You are allowed to build a life that feels honest, spacious, and calm. You are allowed to choose relationships that meet you with respect instead of obligation. Healing is not about erasing the past. It's about refusing to let it define your future. And the moment you start living from your truth instead of your wounds, you don't just heal, you become free. Let's talk about forgiveness. Because it's often weaponized against people who are already hurting, you're told that forgiveness is the key to peace. That holding on makes you bitter. That letting go means welcoming people back with open arms. But that version of forgiveness has nothing to do with healing. Forgiveness is not reconciliation. It is not forgetting. It is not excusing harm or rewriting history to make others comfortable. Real forgiveness is internal. It's the moment you decide that their betrayal will no longer control your nervous system, your choices, or your future. You can forgive someone and still say, I don't trust you. You can forgive someone and still keep your distance. You can forgive someone and still protect yourself fiercely. Forgiveness without boundaries is self-abandonment. And you have done enough of that already. Sometimes forgiveness looks like releasing the hope that they will finally understand, like letting go of the fantasy that one day they'll apologize in the exact words you need, like accepting that closure doesn't always come from them. It comes from you. This kind of forgiveness is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need approval. It's the moment you stop rehearsing arguments in your head, the moment their name stops tightening your chest, the moment you choose peace over being right. And here's the truth no one tells you. You don't forgive because they deserve it. You forgive because you deserve freedom. There is a moment in healing that doesn't look dramatic from the outside, but inside, it changes everything. It's the moment you stop waiting. You stop waiting for accountability that may never come. You stop waiting for them to choose you back. You stop waiting for the version of family that exists only in your hope. And instead, you choose yourself without apology. This choice is subtle. It looks like fewer explanations, like longer pauses before responding, like trusting your instincts instead of overriding them, like no longer chasing connection where there is no repair. This is not bitterness, this is wisdom. Strength after betrayal doesn't roar. It doesn't seek revenge. It doesn't prove a point. It stands firm. It knows when to step back. It knows when silence is safer than honesty. It knows that peace is more valuable than being understood. And slowly, almost without you noticing, you begin to feel lighter. Your body relaxes. Your thoughts quiet. Your life expands beyond the wound. You start building chosen family. People who listen, people who respect your no. People who don't require you to shrink to belong. This is how healing shows up, not as the absence of pain, but as the presence of self-trust. You no longer need their validation to move forward. You no longer need their permission to be whole. And when you realize that, you are no longer defined by betrayal. This is the moment you've been moving toward, though it may not feel like a grand reveal. It is quiet. It is steady. It is unstoppable. Letting go after family betrayal does not mean forgetting them. It does not mean pretending the pain never existed. It does not mean you are heartless or ungrateful for what was good. Letting go means you are choosing yourself, choosing your peace, choosing a life that isn't dictated by other people's inability to love well. You are allowed to grieve. You are allowed to be angry. You are allowed to close the door on relationships that wound you without shame. And here is the most radical truth. You do not need to earn forgiveness. You do not need to wait for reconciliation. You do not need to shrink, apologize, or explain for the rest of your life. Freedom is your birthright. Peace is your choice. Healing is your power. Step into it fully. Step into the life where your nervous system is calm, where your heart feels light, where your love for yourself is louder than your loyalty to anyone who broke your trust. The people who hurt you do not get to define your future. Your courage, your resilience, your boundaries, they do. So take a deep breath. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, I am enough. I am safe. I am worthy. This is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of the life you were always meant to live. And you carry that freedom forward, untangled from betrayal, unshaken by the past, fully alive in your truth. You are whole. You are free. And now you can finally be at peace.